What's up, my people? We are back with another installment of My Therapist Made Me Do This podcast with Mario and friends. I am, of course, Mario. Now, I have a friend with me today.
Hey,
For those listening, it's your favorite co-host, Jessica. Um, babe, how have you been?
I've been okay. I'm on the sick and shut in list currently. I had surgery on Tuesday,
All right, are we sharing? Are we?
and
All right, so yeah, just had surgery this week. So I've been playing Doctor Husband, scooping up pee,
mm,
you know, checking wounds, just delivering top notch medical care, if I may say so myself. But all jokes aside, she's up and moving around. We ain't really broadcasting. We ain't really know what pray for me because the Lord ain't going. I
because
ain't,
I don't know how y'all be praying.
yeah. And man, can we? How we already going off the cuff, but can I just say something about people that do that? Um, this is Mario's useless 2 cents. I need you guys to be careful about when you ask people to pray for you, because you don't know people's uh relationship with God. You don't know who they praying to, and more importantly, they could be praying on your downfall the
You don't
whole
know their
time.
intentions.
Yeah, so
Mm,
y'all be present to pray up, and then the other shit. Stop telling people to pray for y'all, and then y'all not telling them what to pray for. Because you could be praying that somebody kill your baby daddy or some crazy shit like that. So man, just stop doing that shit. Or if you do, just be specific about what you need
what
prayers
you
for,
need.
and keep it like to your little circle of people. That's Mario's useless 2 cents. But you can do whatever you want to. I don't care.
But anywho,
So yeah.
I can't laugh good. I'm still hurting.
So so before we get into what we're gonna talk about, I know we before we went live, you did say you wanted to touch on it. Um because most, not most, but a lot of people, a lot of minorities, I should say, because it wasn't just black people that I talked to when I was telling them what you had going on medically. Ironically, a lot of them resonated with what you had going on. Some of them had the same procedure you had going on, and a lot of them had the same symptoms you had going on. So I don't know if you want to share kind of what you had going on and what happened.
So, I'll give you guys the quick abbreviated version. As he was saying that, a lot of women, especially women of color, we always have issues with our, menstrual cycles or just cramping, etc. And we just allow it to be like, oh, it's normal. We can push through it. Well, I'm not the it's normal. We can push through it kind of girl. Like I don't do that. So about a year ago, I started having issues and I immediately knew something was wrong because I'm like, okay, this is not normal for me. Had a minor procedure in October last year, thinking that would solve the problem. 'Cause they found polyps on my uterus, nothing cancerous. So, like, this should fix it. It didn't fix it. And I just refused at 43 years old to have to be on birth control, to have to put an IUD in, to be able to solve a problem. So I elected to have a total hysterectomy. I kept my ovaries so that way I don't go into menopause at this age, but it would provide me a better quality of life versus continuing to have pain, irregular bleeding, pain, and more pain. I think that was for me the biggest piece that it was causing not just menstrual cramps, but excruciating back pain. And I already have back pain from being in the military, but like it would literally put me out for like a day. I didn't had to steal his heating pad, so I got a heating pad on the front, heating pad on the back. It was just too much. So my doctor and I came to the conclusion that this was the best option. Um, I will say shout out to my doctor because he
Yeah,
listened.
that's dope.
Very good bedside manner and really listened to what I had going on and provided good recommendations for what that was specific to me. Just because, a lot of women I talked to were like, oh, I did the birth control thing for X amount of time and then that didn't work. But because I have had so many issues with various forms of birth control over the years, my doctor was like, well, we can try it, but you know your body. So we came to that conclusion that this was the best option. Obviously, being a teacher now, I elected to do it over the summer. So 1 July, I done had the scooped and shoots, or I don't know.
Scoops and shoots is
I
crazy.
mean, that's what happened. But I mean, it was done laparoscopically, so my bounce back. I mean, I had a rough couple of days just because
Dang.
my recovery didn't go the best. I probably don't do well on anesthesia. That's probably a box I need to start checking.
There's
Is
no
like,
probably. You don't.
yeah. So this recovery was not good. Probably today I finally left the house, and I'm able to kind of get up and move around a little bit more. But it's been a rough few days, child. I tell you the truth. You look,
Now think about it, today was the first time you got out the
I
house.
ain't been out. I ain't seen the light of day.
Damn. Well, let me say this as a I'm gonna put on a couple of hats here. As a concerned husband, first of all, and as a 19-year medical professional, is what I call myself. Um, People, if you're listening to this, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't do a good job at this, but when it comes to her, I make sure she is on her stuff. Like she said, you know your body, right? And I'm gonna tell you, like, there are a lot of medications that you can take for a lot of things. Um, but again, like trust your gut because talking to other people and they were saying, oh, there are options that you can take these like hormone pills to help fix things. But man, I'm gonna tell you, only you know what you can tolerate. And whenever you're talking to your provider, and this is everybody, when you're talking about anything, I don't care if it's from a cold to a possible hysterectomy, always ask your provider, what is the risk benefit of doing everything they mentioned? Like make them lay everything out. All right, if you take these pills, it could work, but then 3 months from now, we might be back in the same spot. If we have the surgery, it could do this or it could do that. So that way, when you walk out of the room, you have a very clear picture of what your options are, and never make a decision in the doctor's office. Leave, talk about it, consult with your family or whatever, and like really like figure out what the best decision is for you. So
Yes, because one of the things that we talked about beforehand was like, okay, we knew all the options, and thankfully, I had a friend that had kind of had something similar. Again, we're around the same age, and it was like, okay, these are the things that are going on. Um, so kind of just talk to her about risk, benefits. Hey, how are things now? How's your sex life? I mean, things like that matter when it comes to this type of procedure because I mean, you are taking out, your uterus, your womb, like, and there's also I would say like a spiritual and emotional connection to that too because while I made the decision, I still had to grieve the fact that and mind you, while we were not having any more children,
shops closed.
but I still had to grieve the fact that I was removing my womb, like I was removing that piece of me. So that definitely was an emotional piece. While I had made the decision, I was comfortable with the decision based upon my health, what I needed to happen with my health, and then kind of moving forward. But it still was a thing. Like I had to process that emotionally. So I processed that emotionally, and I was like, "Yep, this is still the best decision." And I will say, yes, having a good, strong, supportive team helps. Like obviously having my husband there, but having some girlfriends that had also kind of been through that situation to help like in that process of like, hey, like yes, this is what happened to me and willing to share because I think that's the other thing. So as I started talking to some other women,
Mm.
it's a girl, two ladies at my job were like, "Girl, I need to have that done too." Well, I'm like, "You need to get it done." And really talking about the conversations with doctors even. I mean, as a black woman, having a conversation with a doctor who one of my coworkers was saying, she was talking to a young white female doctor who didn't understand that, hey, black women around this age have these issues. And she's like, "Oh, I'm just not up to date on that research." And we're
Oh
like,
boy.
Well, I'm your patient. I need you to be up to date on that research." Needless to say, she didn't go back to that doctor. So it
Yeah.
is definitely something that we should be talking about because again, just in a very short conversation, "Hey, what's your summer plans?" "Girl, I'm having hysterectomy this summer." And or just kind of talking through like, some issues and we realizing, hey, we had a lot of things in common. And here we are. She's having one done in September. So it is very much something that we don't talk about, especially as women. We continue to push through the things. We will
Mm.
be in pain and we will still do whatever it is that needs to be done because it is what we do. And I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother topic to talk about another day. But yes, as women, we need to listen to our body, and be unapologetic about the decisions that you're making for your health, not just your physical health, but your mental well being too. Because I did like, well, I mean, I could deal with it. Like I could deal with it and just take painkillers and, continue to press through. But I'll be, what is how I know that there is a God.
Hey,
Because the day I was going into surgery, the day before, I started bleeding out no for no reason. And I was like, see, you know what? You out here showing out. Your uterus out here showing out. And that's why you got to go.
you was talking to your uterus?
I was. We had a whole conversation. That's why she got
No
evicted.
comment.
I was calling her she and everything, and people was like, who is she? Girl, that uterus, she got to go. Evicted.
Man, so you mentioned something. We about to talk about the topic in a minute because man, this I was listening to you talking. I almost pivoted and just started talking about this. But we'll say that for pillow talk because I don't want to share that yet because we had this conversation. But
Oh yeah,
I
well,
don't
I don't know
know
what you're gonna say.
about the emotional tied to your own. I don't think we had that conversation. We'll
Hmm.
say that for pillow talk.
Okay, just like how we
Yeah.
had that good restitution talk too. See, we be talking about some stuff y'all just don't know.
What's restitution?
You know how when like something happens and like just because somebody like saying that you're sorry is just not necessarily enough. Like the person has to like you need some restitution. Remember we were talking about the thing which
Oh yeah.
but said I had to whisper that because he wasn't he I had to bring
I'm kidding.
I had to bring the conversation to his remembrance first. But we was talking about restitution and like the short version is this. Something happens to you, somebody wrongs you, something happens. And while that person may apologize for what they've done, that's not enough from an emotional and I mean even from a spiritual standpoint to be able for you for both parties to be able to move on,
Mm,
right? Like there has to be some restitution. There has to be some reconciliation that happens that is not just I am so sorry. I
we
did
need some
not mean to make
restitution.
you feel that way. You're right, but then you made me feel this way. So then what are you doing? Especially if we are in relationship, and that's not just a husband and wife relationship. That's a friendship. That's sister friends, people that's in your life that way. Okay, you said you're sorry, great, but what are you doing, right? That person that wronged you, what are you doing to then show me that you are now worthy of my trust again?
Mm.
Restitution. That's a whole nother write
We
that
need
down in
some
your
restitution. We need some restitution.
listen. And don't even get into the spiritual piece of restitution either.
We're not gonna get into that.
That's what I said. You ain't read that's too much for
No, that's
tonight.
good though. Table that. I want to hear that.
Get my tea.
All right. So tonight's episode is called "The
Oh,
Vanishing Family Reunion." I'm not
I
gonna
had
lie
almost
to
forgot we was talking about.
no, but I do like to kind of throw these little nuggets before we start because I actually did have something else to chime in on, but I'm gonna save it for the next one because I ain't gonna forget that one.
Okay.
Um, man, so how this started? So I saw this and it's crazy. I don't think I shared it. I read it and then I put it on my Facebook post, and then I got like some ridiculous amount of like people reading the comments and sending me messages via like email and DM, and I was like, man, this isn't just let me just get into it.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. So the title of this episode, The Vanishing Family Reunion. As you can see if you're watching right here. Oh, I thought it was gonna pop up, but it didn't. All right. So there was a post that popped out, and that it is now viral because I see people sharing it all over the place. So it says research says that black family reunions have declined by 47% since 1997. Main reasons are due to elders passing away and unresolved family issues. So I said, damn, we've never had a family reunion in our house, right? In my family. And we're gonna get into that in a little bit. So I put on Facebook, hey, if you've ever had a family reunion, why don't you still have them? And why haven't you ever had one if you haven't? So the comments I got pretty much aligned with what the reasons were. Some people went into like whole detail, which we'll jump in and out of here a little bit. And I said, damn, like this is a good conversation. And I noticed it wasn't just limited to black families.
But there's some, historical significance to why black families,
Mhm.
got together besides other people families.
Yep. So let me lay the foundation for y'all first. So, couple of studies, and this ain't just black families, this is just people in general. In 2023, there was a study done by Pew Research, which I've seen them done a couple of things before. We said only
Yeah.
37%, only 37% of Americans say they see extended family members at least once a month, down from 50% in the early 2000s. The U.S. Travel Association said that family reunion travel has declined since the 2010s, with a drop of nearly 20% between 2015 and 2022. Now, in 2022, there was an Ancestry.com survey that said over 60% of Gen Z and millennials have never attended a large family reunion. Finally, the census data shows that multi-generation households are increasing, but family events involving extended kin are shrinking, pointing to a narrowing of close family ties to the nuclear unit. Do you have anything to say about that?
I mean, so I have attended plenty of family reunions in my time between both of my families. So my families are very interestingly different. So
Mhm.
with my mom's side and my dad's side, so we attended family reunions a lot on my dad's side of the family just because of the sheer size of that family. It is typically the older people in the family that would put it on, either um like the Cox side or the Rick side. On my dad's side of the family that would always put it on. It would be in various places. So one time we were in Florida, one time we go back to Fort Gaines. That's where my dad's family is from. It's Fort Gaines, Georgia. It's a little P town, who knows where, close to Alabama side. But we would always go back and forth, and I remember going frequently when I was younger. But I would also say, additionally, my parents were also military. Both my parents were in the military until I was 15. Well, no, I wasn't until I was in the eighth grade.
Mhm.
So yes, I didn't grow up, and I think that's probably what makes, not that I'm unique anymore, right? But I think, compared to how you grew up, I didn't grow up around family. I did
Yeah.
not grow up like having cousins right down the street or whatever. However, comma, I was very, very close to my cousins, even though we didn't live next to each other. So every summer I would travel to various aunts' houses and spend like, hey, I'm gonna be here for 3 weeks and I'm going somewhere else for 3 weeks. Now that I'm an adult, I realize what my parents was doing. They did what we did with our daughter.
What?
Go with your granny, go with your auntie. And I'm only child. So when I was gone, they had the whole summer. Like literally, I would remember leaving shortly after school was out. I would go to Texas first, then I would go to Michigan, and then I would go to New Jersey.
Damn.
I'll be gone the whole summer. I was living my best life.
Maybe your family don't love you. I don't
Well,
know.
and I realize now they was probably out here having the don't even matter.
Okay.
We don't even want to talk about what they
Because
was
one
doing.
of her parents is in
Yeah, my mom is here. But yeah, I also think that now being geographically separated from your family is definitely probably a large piece of it.
there.
I mean, I don't know how much it cost. Clearly, I'm not going to say it didn't cost nothing to travel, but things were different, back then with traveling, especially if you're traveling as a large family. So I do think that people are relocating all over the place due to work. So I mean, yeah, it makes sense, and I mean that's a testament to how I grew up. So I mean, we lived overseas for 3 years, and I can't remember if we went in those 3 years that I was there, but I know we didn't travel back to the States as often, those 3 years, 3, 4 years that we were overseas. So, I mean, I can see it. I mean, I can see it in my own. I don't think I've been to a family reunion on either side in 10 years. And some of it's been our own, just because of our military life and service. Like,
Yeah.
he's been deployed. So me trying to travel with the kids or whatever, work, those kind of things. But I know we've had family reunions. But I also know that my dad's side of the family, they all kind of still live close to each other. So Thanksgiving is a family reunion at my house, and my
Yeah.
dad's side of the family.
They be
For
live
for
too.
a piece of us, not
Yeah.
maybe everybody, but I mean everybody, they live close.
So it's kind of interesting when I look at your family, and I don't. I don't know if me and your mom were talking about this at dinner tonight, or I was talking to you about this earlier. But like growing up, I was, I guess you would consider my family big, but
Yeah.
so almost I grew up with almost all my cousins, all of them. Like I live with my grandma, so they was over there all the time. Like we grew up together, hung out, and all those things. So we were pretty close up until, man, shit, maybe my early teens. Like I mean, like we were pretty close, and it's interesting now that how close we were when we were younger, and now that we're older, like I think I'm the only cousin that's out of the state of Georgia, period. But
And that makes a difference.
it does. And I don't know how close my other cousins are, but like I look at your family and we'll take your mom's side, for example, like smaller family. But man, I would argue that even though your mom's side of the family is relatively small compared to mine, man, they are a lot closer than my family is.
Yeah, and I think it's important to give the listeners an understanding. So my mom's side of the family, both of her parents, so my grandparents were only children. So my mom did not have aunts and uncles. Like she didn't grow up like that. Literally both my grandparents were only children.
Mm,
And I mean, it'll get her to tell you, the reasoning why, whatever, but they're both only children, and then my mom is one of four others, so there's five of them. And my aunt, one of her sisters, just passed away a couple of years ago. So for the most part, everybody was still close. Um, but what makes it interesting is that of the five of them, there's only one. Everybody only had like one or two children, except for one aunt. She had four. So I mean, when you're talking about close knit, so like it's me as an only child, my mom's sister, they were only had one. My aunt that passed away, they adopted one. My uncle and them only had one child, and then my other aunt, she had four. So, and then one passed away before he could even have children. So, when you start talking about like, oh, I got a whole bunch of cousins, I don't have that many cousins.
gang,
Like,
gang, gang.
and there's two generations of cousins in my family. So we're talking that you have an older generation, which they're like 8 years older than I am, and then there's three of us that were born literally like a year. My other, and there's only two girls, so it's me and my other female cousin. We were born the same year, and then my little cousin was born. I think y'all the same age, so maybe like 2 years after us. So there's literally you have the older side, older, and then you have us, and that's like my mom's side of the family. So that's it. So you don't. It's not a lot of us. So it's very easy for that side of the family to get together. I said, shoot, my retirement last year was a mini family reunion because literally,
Yeah.
except my one aunt that we gonna talk about that later about beef in the family. She beefing with everybody. She didn't come. So, but everybody else
Damn.
came. Like literally, my aunt, her new husband, which
I
we
feel came to the retirement.
yes, remember,
Shout out Unfeel and Oscar,
my my cousin JT, who is basically like my brother.
my
But
dog.
when people see us, they're like, "Oh, that's your brother." I'm like, "No, that's my cousin." But we damn near like brother and sister. When I met his first wife, she was like, "You ain't tell me you had a sister." He was like, "I don't. That's my cousin, but you don't play. We'll cut you. We will."
Oh, they ain't talking about you. That lady don't like me. But anyway,
Well, she the ex-wife. But yeah, so that my mom's side of the family is very small, and then you go to my dad's side of the family. There's five of them. My grandmother has two other siblings. Um, I'm not sure about my grandfather. He passed away when I was a baby, but there's a lot of us. Like we took pictures. My grandmother just turned 100 in April and she's still living. So
man,
we just took a picture. We just took, oh, this is her with her grands, great greats, great grands, great great. She got a great 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 coming. So when I look at like the sheer size of
man,
that
that's a blessing.
family, I'm always like, man, there's a lot of us on that side of the family. So it's very, very different dynamics between my parents' side.
And it's not a struggle for
Mm-mm.
them to come together.
No, it's not. Listen, everybody in that people flew up. I mean, let's just be honest, turning 100 is not something that happens every other day.
Correct.
So
You're
when
gonna
my
be there for grandma unless
so
something
when my
crazy
grandmother
happens.
turned 100, baby, listen, people flew up from Florida. They came in from New York. They was they came from Atlantic City. If they could come, they was coming up. So even like her brothers, her brother is still living. He's 3 years younger than her. Um, his kids came up for the party. So yeah, great. But shout everybody was up in there. I seen people I ain't seen in so many years. I said, damn, this is a little we might as well have a little reunion right here.
And by the grace of God, your grandma's still in her right
She's
mind.
still
I love her,
listen.
man.
She's
She's
still
sweet.
kicking. I gotta call her too tomorrow.
All right. So I've composed a couple of reasons. These are ones that I found that pretty much summed up a lot of the people on social media's reasoning.
Okay.
There's one I left off in there, but I'm sure we'll intertwine in there. So why the decline? Point number one, geographic dispersion. Now, in 1960, most Americans lived within 50 miles of extended family. Now it's common to be across the country or world from each other.
Yeah.
So, being from Atlanta, I remember, and this is my mom's fault. I won't sugarcoat this. Like, I remember growing up, and when the time came for me to go to college, and my mom said, don't, no, but she's like, it's okay to like love from afar. But like basically she was encouraging me to like see the world and do the things. And I kind of took that and ran with it. Like I went to I ain't go too far from college. I went to Alabama State. And then from there, came back for a little bit, joined the Air Force, I'm out, right? And man, couldn't have been the best advice ever. Because like I was talking to your mom today, like, man, like I lived in Turkey for a year. I lived in North Dakota for 3 years, like places that I would have never imagined. So like when I came home, it was like I was telling your mom today, it's not that I thought that I was better than my family, but man, I was just more cultured than them. So like it was different because all they knew was Georgia. So I think that really kind of made it okay for me to be away. Cause I'm like, man, like there's things. I mean, there's just so much other life going on than stuff in Georgia. But then the flip side of it, I feel like the farther away I got, and the more involved I got with things, basketball, fraternity stuff, like all those things. Like it was easy to occupy my time, and it was easy for me to not think about coming back home. Now, mind you, we've never had a family reunion. Our family reunions are funerals, like most people's things, unfortunately.
Or Thanksgiving before your
Or
grandmother
Thanksgiving.
passed
Now,
away.
Thanksgiving used to be live.
It used baby. But
Thanksgiving. Now,
listen.
when we get down to point five, we're gonna talk about why
Oh,
Thanksgivings,
yeah.
Thanksgivings ain't so
Mm.
live. So, babe, what do you think about? I asked this on the page too. When you made the decision, because you lived in Louisiana, you went to college in Illinois, the University of Illinois, and
I did
then you
like that.
joined, the military. Now, was your reasoning for going to college away or joining the Air Force? Did it have anything to do with your family situation, or you just wanting to get away from a small town? Like, did any of that play a part into that?
So when I grew up, it was just my parents. My aunt lived, I mean, she lived in Texas, so she lived in Temple, Texas. I don't even know how far away that was at this point, but she was probably the closest relative that I had growing up. So I would say after my parents retired, when we settled down in Louisiana, that was my closest relative. So I never grew up around family because my parents were in the military. Um, I mean, my dad grew up around family. My mom, for the most part, grew up around family. Her other family is from Ohio, so not too far. I mean, I guess from Michigan. I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't. I have to think about the geography. But I mean, for the most part, I never knew a life of living. Being able to walk down the street to go see your cousin. Like I never lived that life. So
Mm,
for me, these things aren't it's normal. It's normal to not be close. However, I do see other families that have cousins and they live close and they have all these like childhood memories, like, oh man, we used to go to grandma's house together and we used to do this and
Yeah.
da, 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 da,"
Or the
and I'd be like,
Polaroid pictures.
yeah, I didn't I mean, like, I have those things, but I just have them in spurts of like, hey, it was for the summer or when we had a family reunion, things like that. So I mean, like, I do, and we've even talked about it. Like, I do long at some point for our kids to grow up around cousins, but then I realize like we don't. That's not really our life because of the age span across our families. Our kids don't really have cousins their age, because I think that's the other piece, right? Like, it's generations have changed over the years. So I mean, I think that that's part of it. But I will
Man,
say, when I left Louisiana, the reason why I left was because I had an understanding of the world. Like most people in my where I grew up, and so give a quick frame of reference. My parents in the military. I was born in Alaska. We moved to Louisiana when I was 5. We left when I can't remember what age. I think I was going to the 3rd grade, and then we moved back when I was going to the 8th grade. So I had the people that I had went to when I was there the first time, when I lived there the first time and I was in kindergarten and 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, when I came back in 8th grade, I was still with them same people. That's how the town is small.
damn.
So, and then of course, in Louisiana, it's forced segregation or desegregation. So happened to live in a white neighborhood, and I got bused to the black school being a black person. So it really didn't fix the problem. But I mean, but of course, because of that, trying to desegregate, like forcibly having to desegregate in the 90s, that's what it looked like. So I mean, I went to school with the same people that I went to school with in elementary school. We went to junior high together. We all went to the same black high school. Like I was with these I only graduated with 146 people in my class. Like I knew everybody.
Damn.
Everybody. And their families and their brothers, their sisters, their cousins. I knew everybody. So growing up like that, everybody was gonna go to Grambling. They was going to Northwestern. We had a few people want to go to Southern. Um, and I was like, yeah, I can't. I don't want to. I can't. I got to go. And my dad had moved to Illinois. He took a job working for State Farm, and he took me to the University of Illinois on in Urbana Champaign. And I was like, yep, this is far enough for me. And I really like, and of course, like back, like now, I have, I'm always like, man, like what I should have done was this, but it's whatever. I had a great time.
Hey,
Um,
this ain't about your educational journey. We
What
talking
I'm
about
saying but what I'm saying is that the reason why I left wasn't because I didn't wanna be around people. I just was like, "There's a big world out there, and I wanna see what it's like." But it's part of that is because I think my parents are military. Like, we had traveled. We had traveled to Africa. We had done all these things, and I'm like, "Well, I don't wanna stay in no little Alexandria, Louisiana." I ain't even been back home since
Africa. Yeah, it's true.
I haven't been home in a long time. But people that I grew up with, they still go to homecoming every year. They still live in the same town. They think going to Texas is big deal. And I'm like, child, please.
It's just corny. Homecoming.
But if
I
that's
mean,
all you know in your
what's this
50
new
mile
thing?
radius.
Prom redos. I keep seeing this thing. It's like a trend now. People are redoing their prom 20 years later.
Oh, I'm good. I don't need to redo that
The fuck?
foolishness.
Anyway, point number two. A busy and overworked culture. Now,
Oh, child, yeah, ain't
yeah,
that the
nah, I
truth?
mean, yeah, and I feel like that goes with um almost involuntarily moving to an area that you're not familiar with or somewhere that you may not, be from. I think it's kind of normal to try to get plugged in and do the things. And obviously, as we like to say, life be life in. I know, like, some of my cousins, they've hit some economic hard falls and
Hardships is the word you're looking for.
hardships
Hmm.
and situations and things like that. So I know, like talking to your mom, and I was like, she said, so if you had a family reunion, where would you have it? And I said, well, Mom, to be honest, I'd have to fly back to Georgia. And she was like, but why? Like that defeats the whole
Yeah,
point of
because
it.
we be going places. My mama
Yeah.
family, we went to Tennessee. We don't care. We gonna meet up.
So like she's like, go to Florida, go somewhere else. And I said, man, like,
They can't afford to go.
yeah, just like the way my family is. But I understand her point though. Like, hey, it should be somewhere you go and like everybody experiencing it. She was like, that wouldn't be fun for like the people who are from Georgia. And I said, oh, contraire. Like it actually might be more convenient for them. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm, so I think the thing about being busy, so I honestly though, I think that goes back to the geographic dispersion, right? So back, I think we had gotten so accustomed to working where living and working where you live. Well, now it's companies offering you all kinds of good money to relocate. So
yeah,
it's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go to Phoenix. I'm gonna go to
Texas or
Dallas or
yeah,
whatever, right? So now you're getting offers from companies that are all over the place. And I mean, shoot, now, I mean, even talking about people remote they can live where they want to and then work remotely. But even before working remotely was a huge thing, people were going where the money was because, I mean, I can tell you, like living in Alexandria, Louisiana, like a great place to be, great food, all those things. Um, I'm just not sure, like from an economic standpoint, what that looks like now. If I go to Houston, so one of my best friend from high school, she and her family they moved to the Houston area,
they
Sh
balling though.
and she got a job working for BP, and I mean she's been working there since she graduated grad school. And mind you, she said, "Oh, well, Houston, it's only 4 hours from home. It's not a huge deal to relocate." So that's how she got there. And her husband have just stayed there and they've moved around that area. But again, it was because they were there. Now, I think that being busy matters to where you relocate. So in our case, trying to travel all the way from Arizona back to Georgia is a adventure.
Hell yeah, I think where
It's
did we
a
go last time? And it was like we priced it was like $3,000 just to get all of us on the plane.
oh, we were gonna go home for your mom's 60th. All of us were gonna
Man,
go to your mom's 60th birthday. And we realized it's cheaper for us to go
damn.
and fly my mom here to stay with the little ones. Or I mean, they weren't little, but to stay with the kids.
Three mans just to get my family
Just to
on the
fly
airplane.
there. That wasn't even hotel,
Yeah, cause I ain't staying with my
food.
parents.
Yeah, we
That
can't.
ain't happening.
Our family's too big now to
You know what
do
I'm
that.
saying?
But
Right.
so I would say busy and overworked is the thing because now, I mean, shoot, it listen, get PTO. I know he's spoiled because he in the military, he get them 30 days off every year and to get the holidays and all this other kind of stuff. Let me tell you, look, this civilian job, I get 5 days of PTO and then I get 5 days of sick time.
What kind of shit is that?
Well, then arguably they'll say, well, teachers only work 100 and some days a year. Well, great. But if I can't get sick, I can't, you can't take a little vacation. So the civilian world doesn't provide PTO in a you have to work up to having, so many hours off. And sometimes it's not worth it to fly, especially if you have to fly across country. So like for us, flying from here to Georgia, we would have to take a red eye. There's no like because if not, you spend a whole day traveling. And it is an ordeal to travel. So I could understand being busy, but I also think that from an overworked perspective, we live to work. We don't work to live.
It's fair.
Like we just be working for no reason
Working for the man.
every day.
Um, point three. So I'm kind of torn on this one.
I actually think that's a good one.
Digital substitution.
I know what's going on with all my family. They be posting their business all over Facebook, child,
Yeah.
Instagram.
Social media gives the illusion of connection. Now, I saw a lot of people say this, like, well, and I was clicking on their profile to see what they looked like, and a lot of them were they were younger. No, because it brought my point home. Younger people don't like face to face interactions. Whereas the older you are, like your older generation, man, my grandma was alive. She only wanted to talk to me for so long, but it's gonna when you coming to see me, like you know what I'm saying? Because you value those conversations. And let's be real. And most of the people saying this, and this is just a broad generalization, was talking about, oh, I can see my family. Let's be real. You're not talking to your family on Facebook every day. And nothing can substitute a sit down conversation. And both of my grandparents are passed away, but nothing can substitute a sit down conversation with one of the elders in your family or just a aunt or uncle. Nothing that you can type or or FaceTime, nothing can replace that. So I hate the fact that people use that as an excuse to not want to be a part of family gatherings.
So I think the problem is, so I remember very distinctly when my great grandfather was alive. So my mom's grandfather, I remember, going up to Michigan, going to Howard City again, a little town, had one stoplight. I think it was a blinking light actually. And I remember sitting on the front porch that was screened in because that's where we slept at. Um, and or him sitting in his chair with his little tobacco can and just telling us about his life. He was born in 1900. So,
Damn.
understanding the things that he has seen, the things that he has gone through his life, it was very much like a wow, like let me sit at your feet and just listen and understand. Because at the age that all this was happening, I had a very good understanding of what the civil rights movement looked like what it probably meant to be black in America in, the early 1900s, and seeing how much the world has changed from then until, 1980, the 80s and the 90s. So I think that's the difference. I mean, the things that I even think about that we talk about with our children, like like them having an understanding of like what the 90s were like, and how things were different. It just, I think there was so much happening back then. I loved, I mean, at the time when he'd be like, "Come here, let me talk to you," and I'd be like, "Oh Lord, okay, granddad, let's sit down and
Mhm.
talk about it." But now, I definitely understand, like, wow, like he was telling me this wasn't a movie. Like he was telling me what his life was like.
Free game.
Um and things like that. So I think that there was so much happening during that time, and I had an understanding of what that looked like. I think nowadays, I mean, and this kind of goes back to probably the, with the changing family dynamic, but like nowadays, like I mean, people at work, like people are having kids very young. Like a lot of things are changing. So I think sometimes, like when you're sitting with your elders, what they not really talking about nothing.
No comment.
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm not saying that's where I agree, but I
Yeah.
mean, like we have to tell our kids, like, having your granny, like my mom when she comes
Oh
and
my
like does
God,
stuff, like being
man.
able to just have a grandparent that comes and like wants to visit and wants to do things with you, like it is such a blessing. But I will say that, I mean, I didn't take my grandfather passing away for me to realize that. However, comma, I will say that it hits you later in life. I mean, I grew up with my grandmother lived with us for a long time. And when she passed away, like that was devastating for me. And it didn't take me growing up to realize how devastating that was. But man, like when think about it, even now I get emotional because I'm like, man, like having my grandmother there, it was impactful to my life. So I think
Yeah.
that those are the things that, especially with the digital age going on, like you can just, oh, let me FaceTime such and such. Let me get my, what's the word I'm looking.
Obligatory.
There you go. My brain is off on
Mm.
summertime.
She supposed to be the smart
I am. I just my brain off. Getting that. Okay, like, I've talked to my grandmother. Check.
check the box. Yeah, I'm guilty. I was guilty of that too.
It really, you don't, I think you just take those things for granted, and then finally one day you're just like, man, like I really should have. Like, I mean, I still think about it now. I'm like, man, I really should have been like, hey, granddad, tell me about the 1920s. Like, what was going on? What did that look like being a black man in Michigan, during that time? Think you just don't, that was like fresh off of slavery. You ain't, fresh off of 1863. You ain't think about how close it was. As a kid, I didn't think about how, like, oh, it really wasn't that long ago for him, his parents. His grandparents grew up like that. So you don't think about stuff like that.
Mm. Now,
But that face space, child.
it's the best and worst thing that's ever happened to society.
Mhm.
Um, changing family dynamics.
Mm.
So I don't I don't know about this one. So I'm not gonna say I don't know. I can't relate to this one personally. But divorce, remarriage, and estrangements complicate large gatherings. And this is a reason why a
You
lot
don't
of
know who to
people
invite.
oh right, yeah, but that's legit. Like I don't well, you were last time we saw you, you was married to Johnny. Now you married to Jim. Then you know what I'm saying. Like, and a lot of
Baby,
people.
that my aunt, child. She had a anyway.
So I mean, I have people in my family that have had multiple engagements with situations with people.
I can't be laughing right now.
Well, I mean, I don't judge them. I can't keep up. You know what I'm saying?
So
Like shit.
I
What the
don't
flavor of the month?
I don't know if it necessarily changes. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I have an aunt who, I mean, she had a Muslim man. I don't know if they was husband. I don't know what he was. And somebody else was there. I mean, it was a different flavor every time we would come up there for Thanksgiving. They'd be like, "Oh, okay, who this? Assalamu alaikum."
But did that make it odd for y'all?
It didn't make it odd for me. I mean,
Yeah, just like shit. I ain't.
it didn't make it odd for me. But I would say that at the time, I wasn't an adult.
Yeah.
I can say as an adult, and I don't have we told people Jaden ain't George, right? We know people know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. I wasn't sure. I will say as an adult, being having a child by somebody else, and then moving and shaking in that arena. I mean, I'm not ashamed of it. Like, we're not together anymore, and I'm very firm and fine with that. However, it was. I do remember, showing up with Mario, and people be like, "Oh, this your new hood, this your new man."
Oh, was it awkward for you?
Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't. I was. It wasn't awkward, but I think it was like for everybody else. I just feel like Black people like to make things like this a thing. Like,
Well, it is a thing. Like
it wasn't.
you was here with this man before. Y'all had a baby. He gone. New man here. Now, for me, I'm just I'm pretty happy with lucky. So I'm
Well,
like,
I think the only thing that makes it awkward sometimes is when you're dealing with your older family, and then they be
yeah,
forgetting people names.
yeah.
And I remember, or even like, I mean, my grandmother, she's 100 years old. I mean, she old, and I remember, you know, she still asked him, "Oh, was his name again? Oh, how he doing? Girl, he fine,
What you talking about?
hummus."
Grandma, grandma,
But remember, she
grandma.
old.
We don't
But again, right, or I mean, even just old people don't even remember people's name, and they be like, "Oh, hey, and that ain't him."
So let me ask you this:
Go ahead.
if you, if it was, let's say, the first time you brought me around, and it was awkward amongst the family, or they just kind of turned their nose up at you, would you?
It don't
Would
matter
it
to me.
make you?
No.
Would I have my notes? Would it make you? Would it make you intentionally distant from your family?
No, they'll get over it.
Mm,
But I will say I think for me divorce makes it interesting, or even remarriage and a straight, because I think it you have to figure out where you go,
yeah.
right? So like my parents divorced when I was 19 years old. My mom and my parents were married for 23 years. So a long time.
Yeah, this is a good example, actually. Yeah.
Right? My mom, when my grandmother turned 100, guess who was in the building with my dad's family? My mama, because that was her mom. Like, when her mom passed away, my grandmother filled a very huge void for her
Mm.
for a long time. And even after my parents divorced, they talked regularly. Hell, my grandmother came to Louisiana. My aunt, her daughter, came to Louisiana and stayed with my mom for a little bit. Came on vacation with them and did stuff.
I didn't know that. I didn't.
Yeah,
So legit.
girl.
I didn't. But no,
oh,
I didn't
oh,
know. I didn't know that your mom and grandma was close like that.
child, please, yes.
Oh wow,
My mom
that
calls my
explains a lot.
grandmother mama to this day. Like, it ain't
Really?
yeah. So that's why I think it's interesting. So like I would say in those cases, because like neither of my parents remarried, right? But I mean, let's just say the like how it if it's my mom, and she does not feel awkward in situations like this, because she like, girl, please, that's why my mom play with y'all. um I could see that in that situation, like feeling awkward, like, oh, should I come to and mind you, like for my mom, it wasn't even a question. She calling me talking about when we getting our ticket so we can go to the party. So but I
Wow.
would say maybe nowadays, like let's just say you had a nasty divorce,
Yeah.
right? And you ain't talking to the other person and it comes time to do stuff. I can see how that could be hard. I mean, I listen, I don't talk to my other my ex family anyway, so I don't know what's going on in their life.
Wow.
So I mean, but again, we're talking about different generations because in but I also don't feel like at least the people that I talk, know I don't people think people regard their in-laws how my mom did
Yeah.
her in-laws. Like
I'm gonna
my
get your mom on the podcast before she leave. She'll know it yet.
oh, okay. Well, she not gonna do no video. She'll do the recording only.
No, she gonna do video.
Okay.
Okay.
But I would say that like my mom, even I would even say my dad regarded my their in-laws as a second mom, a second dad.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I would say my grandmother lived with us for years before she passed away. Um, I mean, like I would even say how you are with my mom. Like
Yeah.
you're we don't regard I mean, because I know other people be like, oh, because my Kathy, ooh, that's somebody for real. um
Careful.
I just called a regular random name, but I was like, oh, that is somebody.
Mhm.
But Sarah, my mother-in-law, she's terrible. I hate her. And I'm always like, I love my mother-in-law. She's great. I don't we don't have, I mean, I call her on my own. I don't have to wait for him to engage in that conversation. So I think that that's part of it, and that's what makes it challenging for the family dynamics. Because I would say, for example, if you weren't here, I've been to your house without you.
Yeah.
But I would say that if my in-laws and I were not close or we had a challenging relationship, I wouldn't go.
Dang, that's fair.
I don't know, child, but that one,
So before we get to this last one, I'm gonna
yeah.
throw one in here, all right? Because I didn't put it in there, but
Hmm.
um, family beefs, family
Oh,
drama.
child, could listen. My aunt. Mm-mm.
So Um, actually, no. I'm gonna tie these both into each other. So, point five: the loss of the matriarch or the patriarch role. So, for those who don't know what that means, so like when grandma, great grandma, granddad, great granddad, when they pass
Matriarch,
away,
maternal.
there are a lot of things that go with them, unfortunately. And reading some of these comments, for a lot of people, they were saying like I think my boy Brandon B Glass, he's like, I think he said his uncles were the ones who, put everything on it. When they passed away, it just stopped. A couple other people say, when those matriarchs like started passing away, it was like everything that they did kind of just stopped and nobody took it on. And I'm going to tie this into that part. So,
I just think I think part of that is because younger generations do not value history
absolutely,
of your family, like
absolutely.
really understanding. Like that's why you're a matriarch, especially your matriarch, and even you're the patriarch of the family. But I would specifically say your matriarch of your family. They carry they hold the stories, like they
But hold
hold
on,
those things.
pause for a second. Why don't the younger generation appreciate the history of families as much as others did?
So I mean, I would go back to like from a generational standpoint, like just again thinking about how close those people were back to slavery
Yep.
and having those understandings of like your family being broken apart, your family being displaced, and like all of those things. Your mate, I mean, and again, I mean, we talk about now. Shoot, I mean, I know people who are my age that are grandparents, so
Damn.
yes. So I mean, it again very different, but I think that for us, like my grandmother is the matriarch of our family, and I remember, she is the person that knows all the people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like oh, that's Bet, that's whoever, that's Bev, that's such and such, and she was married. That's another thing too. Your grandmother know your the T too, right? So she tell all your business and knows all the business, and I think those are the things that make it different. Um, and that's why when they go or they get too old to do it,
Hmm.
we didn't take the time to sit at their feet to understand. We don't know.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, and again, thankfully, small family person over here. we know I mean, like, I think I can't go past my great grandparents because I did not know my great grandmother. She passed away in the 60s. I
Same.
wasn't born.
Well, no, I know my
But
great
But
grandma.
I know her name. Bam
Yeah.
is what they called her. That was my great grandfather's wife. So I mean, I understood. I know the stories, right? So I think, and I mean, even I mean, you can go down to like think about passing down recipes. Like my grandmother used to be. I mean, obviously now at 100, she ain't cooking nothing. But my grandmother used to be an amazing baker. She passed that to my father. My father passed that to me. What we did, what we don't. So you gonna sit up here and try to act like my red velvet ain't it?
I ain't say nothing, man. Go ahead, talk, huh?
So it's little things like that where like, things were passed down. We're not passing stuff down like that anymore.
Yeah, I. So as you were talking, I was really sitting here thinking, like, man, just from my family, not so much when my grandfather died, when my grandma died. Like, man, she really was the glue to the family. But for reasons that I guess
Oops.
normal people wouldn't consider somebody the person that holds everything together. Really, I think my grandmother was more the keeper of all the secrets. Like, she knew a lot of things that probably, and she probably died with them, to be honest. Well, I know she died with a couple of them,
Nah, I
but
mean, we ain't gonna put it. Just that's to keep your mouth closed now
no,
before
we
you get
good.
cussed
We
out.
good. No, we good. So, but I do feel like a lot of when it comes to like family beefs, right? And I'll talk about my family for a little bit. So I asked my sister, I'm gonna read this to y'all real quick. I
Oh
sent her the
Lord.
message I sent out and I said, can you answer this for me, please? And she said, we don't have a family to reunion. Now, imagine my sister's 30 years old. She said, we only know our immediate family. So basically my uncles, like my uncles and their kids. And I'm gonna skip that part. And then she said, in my head it's just us. And so I think about things that have trickled down through my family, right? So full disclosure. So I have
Partial
brace yourself.
disclosure. Partial
So
disclosure.
so I have a long standing beef. Like I was telling my wife in the car, I'm part of this problem too.
Part of the hey, first step is being able to
You goddamn
identify.
right. And so my cousin lived with my grandmother. Now, mind you, I hold my grandmother in very high regard. And there was a situation that transpired when they were living together, and it just all blew up. It didn't end well. Like stuff was removed from the house, wasn't supposed to be removed from the house. It just really just did my grandma real dirty and just kind of left her high and dry. So I have forever beef with them. And I remember saying in my head, I was like, man, if they ever just fix that situation, with my grandma, like, we'll be okay. Well, my grandma has
She
transitioned.
does.
And you know what? Ain't no forgiveness in my heart for that.
Who
And this is why I say I am
mhm.
part of the problem.
Yes, you
Because
is.
watching people share this photo, I could see people saying, well, I ain't never been to. I only been to one family reunion, and I ain't going again. Or like people in my comments were saying, like, "Hey, if all my family get together, it's a fight, or it's too much
Sure.
alcohol and drugs, and I don't want my kids subjected to that." And like, man, there is a lot of there's a lot of long-standing beef in families that I feel like the matriarch and the patriarch really held on to. I'll go a little deeper. Now, this ain't my family, but
Thank God.
like the elders knowing like the creepy people in the family or, the family secrets that nobody talks about and things like that. Like when you pass away with that, man, you have to think about, and this is an episode I'm gonna end up having one day when I get my breakthrough about it. But people have long standing trauma in their life. And when you really start peeling back the layers of the onion, you realize there's situations that happen in your childhood that you need closure on. And the only person that has the balls to give you that closure is gone. So what happens to those issues that you have?
Therapy.
Yeah, to a
I
point.
mean,
To a point.
so I will say, I mean, this just the evolution of the black family
Yeah.
has been
Not just black
interesting.
family.
Well, I'm gonna. So here's the thing. You're right. That's fine. And other people's families, yes. However, comma, I can only talk about the black experience because that's how I grew up, and that's what I know. Right. I mean, I'm not saying that other people don't have issues in their family because, baby, we know they do.
Hmm.
But I will say from this perspective, it is a lot of things that just weren't talked about, but I would say a lot of that is generational. I mean, we're talking about like think about the names of our generations, like the silent generation. Like
Yeah.
there were just things they just didn't talk about. Like there were just things that were just we knew that Uncle Charlie was a little something wrong with him. He was touched, those kind of things. And nobody really talked about it, right?
Yeah.
Nobody talked about those things. So, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. And I mean, of course, like, the grandmother, the great grandmothers, like they knew, oh, child, yeah, he don't leave your kids with him, honey. He be looking at such and such a little too hard or whatever, right? Like a lot of those things did die with them. But also it's generational. It's just what they knew, right? It wasn't because the other piece of it was again, remember where they came from, what they understood, who their parents were, was that far from slavery. So for them, keeping the family together at all costs, through the good, the bad, the ugly, that was their goal.
Damn, that's a good
Par-
point.
I mean, most families don't sit down to dinner together, like
Yeah.
things like that. The traditions that they had aren't passed down because, again, it was we are keeping this unit together. And no matter what happens, we're gonna keep it together. And when those people die, now there's no excuse to keep it together. Well, I ain't gotta go over there now because such and such, and don't get me wrong, like I don't believe in subjecting people to continued trauma, like all of those things. Like we do need
Yeah.
to we need to address the things. But the problem that we have in the black family, black people, I mean all people, but is addressing the elephant in the room. We have a very difficult time,
Mm.
and we have a very difficult time confronting someone in a very healthy manner to say, "Hey, listen, what you did, I did not like it," or whatever the case is. And also the perception of that situation. Because while I may have perceived it one way, the person that did it to you maybe perceived it a different way. Hence why we started this conversation with restitution and those kind of conversations.
Yeah.
Like being able to have a conversation because, man, I did this thinking that I was protecting you. However, you took it a totally different way.
Now let me ask you this: do you think that with this modern generation of people that have grown up and have their own kids and families, do you think they're right or wrong for distancing themselves from their family, be it geographic, or just from digital things? Because you get a everything is at our fingertips. We can Google a lot of shit. We can see people who got criminal records and things like that. So, do you think the modern day um, family member is right or wrong for distancing themselves from their family because of unresolved trauma, or just having a somewhat understanding of some shady shit going on, and just deciding to not subject their family, their new
Their new unit.
yeah, to that?
I don't know about right or wrong, but I would say that I think that the to me the you've got to be able to address things. Like I mean, even I mean my sister friend Joyce and I were talking about things that she's addressing at this at the age that she's at, trying to address some things that happened with her father back, and he been passed on and everything else. But like with even his side of the family,
Yeah,
and so I mean, don't get me wrong, like man, I think it's tough to say who somebody's right or wrong in that situation, but I will say that, and especially because families are just under attack right now. Like, and I get like being able to say, "Hey, I don't want to be involved with crazy," and I would say, especially when when you're trying to talk to somebody and like you're willing to get help and resolve and work through that situation, and somebody else is not willing to get help, like that makes it difficult. But I guess I just look at it like I want my children to understand where we came from and how we got here, and not necessarily the story of just us.
yeah,
Like, like this always started from the bottom. No, I need you to understand the history behind our family. Because at the end of the day, and like I know this is probably a very morbid thing to think about, but I like sometimes, like especially when I be passing cemeteries and stuff, I'd be like, once my kids and my grandkids go, who gonna come visit me?
that's real.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah,
nobody has passed on the stories of us. So after, I mean, I would hope that, I live long enough that my children have kids
yeah.
and I'm an involved grandparent. Well, after that, who gonna come see me? because we have not passed down those like those stories, those things. And I'm not saying that, I'm at my grandmother's grave every other day because obviously she's buried in Michigan. Like, so I'm not going up there every other day.
Yeah, every time I touch down in Georgia, oh, I'm going to see my grandma.
Right. But I think
Yeah,
that's the thing though. But again, if you don't have that context, at some point in time your family history, your lineage dies. And I think that's why, like, in other cultures, like how they honor the matriarch of their family, like even, in Hispanic families, how they add that name to theirs, like I said, like there's significance in families. And I think that for Black people in particular, because we are just so hell-bent with not taking account, not even taking accountability, but not even addressing things,
yeah.
that is what tears down our families as well. And then when we start talking about, then you start realizing like, oh dang, I didn't know that I was related to this person that did this big thing, or I didn't know that that was my family lineage and my history. I mean, think about legacy, like the legacy of my family. Like I think about the women in my family, and I'm like, man, like I want to embody some of those traits of like being that strong matriarchal figure in my family. I don't learn that unless I get it from them or I get it passed down to me.
Do you agree with the phrase "blood is thicker than water"? Do you know what that context is?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I would agree.
There's your answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so I say I like to say this because I agree with everything you're saying to a point, and obviously everybody's individual experiences
Mhm.
may alter their opinion. But when you start talking about like the lineage of families and things, and you really start thinking about, man, like if I really needed something, as much as we say, like, family, despite all the good and the bad, that's your family. You gotta
Okay.
love them. But I be thinking, like, man, outside of a couple of people, I don't know if I can say a couple of people. Man, I could probably call on more people that I would consider friends than I do family. And I think sometimes, like, just the way we do things in modern society now, we're gonna gravitate. We create our own little families. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And like, it's really unfortunate, and it kind of goes back to the unresolved traumas and the unresolved issues. Because I feel like I said, I'm a part of that problem too. Like I'm actively working through trying to resolve issues with my therapist now to get to that point to have those conversations. But man, it just
Well, I'll say
I'm not the
this.
only professional avoider. I can say that. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not. There are people that create their own tribes and their own communities because they avoid handling things in their family situation that could
Mhm.
probably make them a whole lot closer.
But I'll say this. And so don't get me wrong, like I think when I hear like blood is thick in the water, like right now, let's just say Mario lost his mind for a quick second. He put his hands on me. Baby, listen, I'm gonna call JT. He'll be here in a minute to whoop his ass. That'll be quick.
All
Blood.
right, bro.
I mean, I'm just saying. Like, I
JT, I love you, but you're not whooping my ass, cause
okay.
like you're
Hmm.
not whooping my ass.
But I guess my point is that when you talk about blood is thicker than water, I think, like, don't get me wrong, like even on my dad's side, where my cousins and I are probably not as close,
Yeah.
right? But I also feel like when I go up there to visit, like I just went in April or May, to see my grandmother for her birthday.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's some of these my second cousins, or cousin twice removed, whatever it really is, but you know how we do second cousins. I haven't seen since they were kids, and now they got kids, and it's so don't get me wrong, like it's been a long time. And I mean, I think there's a point when we're talking about family, because I think there's some things that I would say, yes, blood is thicker than water. Like, like no matter what, at the end of the day, you are still my family, and I'm gonna try to do the things for you. I'm gonna try to put you in position, but I'm also not gonna be taken advantage of. And that to me, just with anybody. Like, I mean, I don't let people borrow money like that, no way, let alone
So I
you know
was
what I
just
mean? Like
thinking
my
about. I was
cousin
like,
or my family.
oh,
But I will say, I think it's not necessarily about doing something for someone. I think the thing is, for me, it's like we are family, because don't get wrong, because sometimes your family, Sometimes your family need to be told off too, or sometimes your family need to be told no.
So your
Like,
family need their ass
well,
whooped.
that part too, but I also, I mean, I also think that, like, we talk about, the covering up of things, or the not mentioning things. Child, one of my aunts, she was alcohol. I'm pretty sure she was an alcoholic. She had the exact change for that Johnny Walker Red. She knew exactly what to change. Go get me a bottle of that Johnny Walker Red
I can't.
and get the exact change. But then ain't nobody say nothing about it. Oh, that's just, she just out here drinking. No, didn't nobody say nothing about it. Then showed up the funeral drunker than a skunk with her hair all over the place. We just like tell her to go sit in the back. You know what I mean? Like we don't address things. We don't, and that's, I mean, hell, I've witnessed that. When I went to New Jersey, it's things going on. I'm like, and then I'm trying to figure out when did I move from the little kids table to now being the adult, telling my aunt, "You can't have this. You can't do
Ooh.
this." And I'm like,
So
"Wait a minute.
you just reminded me of something.
what what
Man,
remind you of?"
a huge reason why things like this don't happen is because even as we get older, like we're always relegated. You're always gonna be little Jessica.
I
You
know.
always gonna be little Mario. And a lot of times older family members have a hard time transitioning those, like, all right, you on your way out, big dog. Like
Well, that's
this
real.
is the new it's just a random thought I thought about. But
So, no, but I will say this because I think I will always be to my dad's side of the family. Oh, you Jerry's daughter.
yeah,
I will always be Jerry's daughter because I look, we have a lot of
don't say that.
mannerisms.
Don't
I
say
know
y'all
it's
looking like that's
weird.
creepy.
I know, but people when they see my dad, they see me, they be like, "Oh, them cheekbones, that's got it. That's your daughter." But I will say that I think while even this trip, and it was somebody that I'm sure has known me since I was knee high to a grasshopper, we're still like, "Oh, you married, you got your kids," and meeting my children. Like, yes, I will always be just, "Oh, that's Jerry's daughter." But I think they also understood like I'm a grown up. Hence why I got put on my aunt duty, watching how many glasses of wine she had. Jessica, go look and see. Don't let her in the house. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, wait a minute. Can I just go back to the kid table where I ain't got to be responsible for this kind of stuff?
I would have let it get faded,
So
but
I
that's
don't know.
just
I
me.
just, but I also, but I think that, and it was because it was weird. It was weird going back to my grandmother's house, um, knowing full well that I am grown at this point, and being treated like a
Yeah.
grown person with kids that isn't just like, oh, go sit down, because then I got, hey, what you cooking? Well, since you here, what are and I'm like, wait a minute, I just go sit and go play with, go outside? So I mean, again, I can't speak for everybody's family, but I will say that I think in my evolution over the years, I mean, my family does treat me like a grown up. I mean, we've been able to stay in the same room together.
We ain't supposed to.
I'm just saying, if we was still being treated like kids, they'd be like,
Fuck
mm-mm, y'all can't
you.
be in here sleeping in
Fuck
my
you, my
house.
family. So let me bring this home because this is actually a really good conversation.
Ooh, my
Um,
tea done got cold.
so how do we fix this, babe? I know it's not good to bring up a problem without a solution. Um, because I just full disclosure, I genuinely don't know what it would take to get me around certain people in my family anymore.
Forgiveness.
I ain't got it in me right
You
now,
do.
and I honestly don't know, I just don't know if I will, because man, I just because of the type of person that I am. Like when people are deliberately done wrong, I don't care if you family or not. Like to deliberately do something. Why are you looking at me like that?
Oh, I'm just gonna let you finish so then I
Oh,
can.
so when you deliberately do people wrong like that,
You
like
heard.
people close to your family, man, like is and then now you in a position where you can't reconcile, you can't make it right. Man, they're just certain people in life you don't disrespect, and your elders and your family is one of those. And unfortunately, my cousin's a female, so I can't crack her skull. But boy, I be wishing I could sometimes. And I just mentally, I can't fathom the idea that you would wrong my grandmother, who was so selfless and gave so much of herself to other people. That the only thing I can see as a resolution is violence, and I'm not even joking right now.
So
I am so fucking serious.
you are putting your expectations on someone else
No, 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 no. So it's not putting my expectations on somebody else.
for them how they should have behaved.
Well, I think it's just a general rule of thumb that you
You
should
see?
respect your elders.
Then
Is that not a?
nowadays they out here cussing their
Man,
grandmamas and
that's
stuff.
crazy. One damn kick, all it take.
I
You
mean,
remember that video where that boy kicked his great grandma, and his mom was right there.
yeah.
One damn kick. It's all it take.
So I will say this. So there's a couple things that I will say. One, I just try not. I just don't believe in like harboring all that energy because like you're really not doing anything with it besides holding on to that grudge that you're not, and it's not servicing you,
You
right?
feel like I'm holding on to it?
Yeah, you just like if you when we listen to it again, I'm gonna be like, see that right there.
No, no,
At
no.
that
But
point, that's how I could
I
tell.
don't wake up
Cause
in the
like,
morning like, ooh, I'm mad
but
at
the
her because of
fact
this. Like when
that
this stuff comes up, I'm like, oh
See,
yeah,
but the fact that it's holding space, it's holding space in your brain. It's in a compartment. Not while it may
little
be a
small
small
compartment.
one,
Yep.
it's there. I mean, I get I will say this, and don't get me wrong. I ain't saying that you got to forgive and forget everything, and you got to live in kumbaya with everybody and your family. Because I mean, don't get me wrong. We got some. Listen, I'm rewatching Criminal Minds when I've been on the sick and shut in list, and I'll be like, "Whoo, child, the things these people be doing to their families is crazy." However, what I will say is in this particular situation, I'm not saying forgive and forget. However, I mean, your grandmother is no longer here.
Correct.
She has let it go before she
We
passed.
don't know that.
She did. She did.
Don't let me have to start having this conversation about how people wait to transition because they don't let me. All right, that's a whole
Okay,
nother
let's
conversation.
let that go. Okay, thank you. I mean, I just look at it like this: is what is it doing for you now? Besides, and mind you, I'm not saying it now. I ain't telling you to call them tomorrow and be like, I ain't talked to you in 10 years. Let's talk. Let's talk. Like no, I think it's the other thing too. Like no one's forcing you to have that relationship, but I would also say that that shouldn't be a reason why you don't do something like like when we're talking about like getting together with family. And you know what, truth be told, most of the time them people who know they in the wrong, they don't
They
show up
don't
to the
show up.
they don't show up
Type
because
shit. Yeah.
because they know they show up, they liable to get their tail whooped or get cussed out. Because I mean,
We'll say bring your husband, but we know you ain't got one.
oh, petty. But I will say that I think that in a lot of these situations when you start having family reunions, the people that know it, and I would say especially now, like we ain't talking about 1995 when people everybody was just showing up, when nobody talking about stuff.
Right.
People are empowered to call you out on your bullshit.
Yeah.
So those kind of people really don't show up to stuff no way. Like for example, my retirement last year, my aunt didn't show up. I don't know why. Well, I mean, I kind of know why she didn't show up, but I also think she knew she was short. I'd be like this. Why you acting like that? Why is you out here acting like that?
She wasn't gonna. I
She
don't
don't
even
want to.
know y'all history, but she wasn't gonna show her ass like that. And I
No,
didn't.
and that's my point. So I think that in these situations, like people who like when they know that they have wronged someone, and especially if they're not willing to go that extra mile to have that restitution and have that resolution, I think that they don't show up to stuff like this. No way. I think it's the people who want to have that to foster family to be able to understand where they came from, who they came from, and what those stories and things are. Those people that show up.
Man, I'm gonna leave this like this.
He ain't going, child.
In
What?
the words of Pastor Troy,
No, which one?
he made a song called "I'm Outside Ho."
Oh,
And the beginning of the song says, "I can forgive, but I can't forget.
well,
Somebody gonna have to pay for this shit."
well. Here's my thing.
Sitting in my comfortable clothes, mind made up to burn these hoes. Like, listen,
I
I'm
can't
like,
laugh,
I'm
but
I'm not ready to heal from that.
so
Boy, I thank God for therapy to get me to this point to
ooh,
even say that because I'm like
praise God.
I'm not I'm not.
Well, I would just say that forgiveness has been granted to a lot of to all of us in situations and relationships. Heaven forbid, where would we be if we wasn't forgiving each other?
No, that's different.
What's different?
What you mean, genuine? It's a lot different. Man, we talking about the matriarchs of your family being wrong. The people who's supposed to be the glue of your family. That's
Okay, this will have to
crazy.
be another time to talk about it. But I will say this.
Say this.
I don't believe in, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of hurt going around in families, especially
Mhm.
especially now that we, especially now that we have been empowered to talk about it and talk about the things that have happened in our childhood. And look, this probably the other reason why I ain't grew up around no family, so I don't have a whole lot of, extra things to say. Well, that's not true. But I also think that now we're willing to talk about it, and I think that we don't take into consideration that sometimes other generations, like, they just, that's things they don't talk about. Those are family. That's, my mom used to tell me all the time. Mind you, I tell my kids, what goes on in this house stays in this house. Don't be telling nobody our business.
Yeah.
Don't be out here telling everybody stuff. And I think we in the black family have just held on to that so tight that it's now causing damage to people.
Mm.
It's damaging that we don't want to talk about Uncle Charlie who was out here touching little boys and girls or whatever.
Charlie.
Those kind of things, or like he hugging on to you a little too tight or whatever, like things like that. So I think that's the part that we
I had a joke. But go ahead.
don't talk about, and those are the things that I think are damaging. But I mean, we gonna get there. I will
We're gonna get there
say
eventually.
that summer of next year, we're planning, a little family reunion.
Who?
My cut JT and
Oh,
I.
you talking about yo? Okay, good.
Yeah, my mom, we're gonna do a little, because apparently we were supposed to been plan it, and I was like, That's not true because my we are about those things. Like we are about getting together. So we are gonna plan, a little. What's our family name? Presley.
Yeah,
Presley.
family name. All right, but we gotta
Yeah.
get out of here. It's been an hour and 22 minutes.
It ain't got nothing to
Listen, yes, I do.
do. What?
Nothing. We
What's
can't be over
happening?
an hour 22 minutes, but you gotta keep your listeners. You can't be 2 hours.
It should be consistent.
They be listening. What you say?
Never.
Anyway, I heard what you said.
You
Anyway,
good.
great conversation, babe.
It was
I do.
great.
I appreciate your long windedness on this topic because it was beneficial, and I wanted you to come on here because why you look? It's not a
Sneak this. Go ahead.
nah, no, but because our family dynamics are so
Very
different, especially
different.
now. So I was like, man, I didn't want to talk about this by myself.
Oh,
Um,
so I was a consolation prize.
Pretty much. I mean, to me, like you know what I'm saying. So, but nonetheless, man, thank y'all for listening, man. Please feel free to chime in.
Yes, we'd love to
Your
hear
thoughts.
your
Appreciate
thoughts.
everybody that sent me messages and comment on the Facebook page, man. It's a problem, man. And like the demise of the family construct
It's real.
is happening at such a rapid pace. Like all jokes
Mm.
aside, like it really is concerning. And I feel like with the state of our climate right now, the state of the world, man, we really do need to kind of
Get it
come together
together.
as a family because you never know what's going to happen the next couple of years. But we really got to start leaning and relying on our family to get us through, man, because you never know. You just never know. And like I said,
We about to be back to slave days. I don't know why
yeah,
y'all acting like this. We is about
they gonna, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna die. Cause I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna be no slave. They gonna kill me.
it is
I'm out.
I agree. I say that our families, all families, not just black
Grabbing that
families,
Deadpool gun and I'm going to work till they
are
kill me.
under attack, and we need
Yeah,
to have a tight knit unit to be
yeah,
able to survive.
thanks.
What that song?
Go ahead.
I love you. I
All right.
need
So
you.
appreciate y'all
Oh,
for listening.
ouch.
As always, check us out on Good Pods, YouTube. Got a couple more YouTube. But how many impressions I told you I had
I
earlier?
don't remember.
They're like 6,000. I'm like, dog. If you can look at it, just hit follow. I don't understand, man. That's what Asian be talking about. Now I see what he mean. But
It's because I haven't been
Facebook,
on.
Instagram, whatever. Follow us. Obviously, everywhere you listen to podcasts, just to be on. Go check out my boy Adrian. I respectfully disagree podcast. Willie and Fiona, the thing about us podcast. Make sure you check those podcasts out. You got any parting shots, man?
No.
That's it.
Let me take a Percocet.
Do, 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 do.
Percocet.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you guys. Have a good night.